Another thing I want to talk about real quick, I don't know how much longer I have to make this video, but before I completely retire this Irish shirt for the year, I'll be 41 hopefully the next time I wear it. And I don't know whether or not I'll wear this again, maybe a few more times this year. But another thing I want to talk about real quickly with whatever little bit of time is left, I want to say that eating out, is about so much more than the food. And that's something my dad doesn't understand. Because I want to say it's been since the 7th, and what are we now, the 19th or so? Oh my gosh. So 12 days since he's actually sat in a restaurant. And I don't know, it's like every year he eats out less than he did a year before. And what he doesn't understand is that eating out is about more than just the food that you get there. In my case, it's the thrill of the experience of eating out, just being able to wear my jewelry and actually have a reason to do so, and not just be at home where nobody sees it unless I make a video. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what's the point in having all that jewelry if you never go anywhere? Movie theaters have pretty much died out everywhere we go. You can't hardly find a movie theater, and not that we ever wanted to go to one. We weren't making use of them when they were in business, by and large. So we live in a town where their one and only movie theater is being converted into some sort of a church. And, I just want to talk about how eating out, for me, it's one of the few experiences that I can really have of seeing the outside world. He claims he doesn't want to go to church because of the hypocrisy. Well, you know what the reality is? He doesn't want to go to church because he's a lazy ass. And, Sunday is just another day when he can't pry himself out of his stupid chair, and actually go somewhere besides a grocery store. But, he thinks that the only thing that matters about food is getting the highest quantity of food, the best quality, and the lowest price. Well, you know what? I think that the experience of eating out is worth something, and he doesn't understand that, you see, because he doesn't care. He just leaves his plate dirty at the table with food in it. Doesn't help me at all with dishes. He'll get in my way during the cooking process and cause me to have to redo stuff that he does wrong, but he will not help me with the dishes, obviously, because he'd break half of them every time. But, he just doesn't take that into consideration. In his mind, the food is free if you prepare it yourself. Well, I'm really sick of that, because the thrill of eating out is worth something. And, it's just so infuriating to me, because, like, it's like, well, I ate out like about 3 days ago by myself. But the longer I live in Texas with him, the more I found out that half or more of the eating out I would do would be by myself, having to drive myself. And if I'd have known that, I would probably have fought harder to stay with my mom. In spite of all my health issues that I needed him to help me take care of, or I'd have gone back with her immediately. Once I got past those health issues, I'd have moved back maybe 2 years after I moved with him by 2017, because there was the thought of doing that. And so, eating out, as I've stated before, it's not about, I've always said it's about the venue, not the menu. And he wouldn't understand that. He's a person, he doesn't appreciate beauty. He doesn't appreciate, the fleeting nature of beauty, like in people, how my hair won't be brown forever. But, he just doesn't appreciate anything. He didn't appreciate my mom. He doesn't appreciate me. And it's just so frustrating, because it's like, the older he gets, the worse it is. It's like, the thought of going back to live with my mom really does occur to me. If it wouldn't be for this house, which is probably the only reason he really agreed to buy it, and then he won't fix it up, probably he knows that were it not for this house, like if he decided to sell the house and go live in an apartment or something, I'd be gone. I'd be out of his life, and I'd go back with mom. Like, I really never wanted to. I never actually wanted to leave my mom in the first place. Like, if it were up to me, I'd be living with her indefinitely for the rest of her life. That would be happily ever after for me. Do whatever I can with all these dolls that I've acquired. Maybe she'd help me make sense of them. Maybe she'd help me sell some of them. Maybe that would be for the best. Who knows? But, eating out, and she understands this. She may not do it every day, but a week doesn't go by. Yeah, that she doesn't go somewhere for some meal, usually dinner or something. And it doesn't have to be like a really big, expensive place, which really doesn't exist. I mean, they're really, honestly, you'd have to do some driving before you would get to a place like that from here. What few places they really have like that don't stay in business long because there's just nobody that can really afford that or wants to eat at such a place in this town. And same thing with her town, you know. Texas was my last hope of experiencing such things, which is why I am just so glad I went one last time to Outback around Halloween that last year that we lived in Texas. And I do not regret that one bit because I like the Outback and, I like Australian things. And I just really enjoyed it. I made a memory one last time, at the Outback Steakhouse that he hadn't taken me to in at least, what, 4 or 5 years at that point. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, is it going to be 6 years? And, all this nonsense, they basically killed the restaurant industry with the pandemic. But I happen to know, that eating out is not going to increase your risk of respiratory illness. I happen to know, that it just doesn't do that because I know, that during the years, I keep making these graphs, but the years when I had the most colds, when I was younger, basically, I was not eating out more than I was during the years when I had less colds or the least amount of colds, which was my early 30s. You know what I'm saying? I was not eating out more when I was a teenager and younger than I was in my early 30s, but yet I had a fraction of the colds. And, it's just, oh my gosh, the graphing is just a fun thing with me. It's just so much fun. I could graph all day. I just love math and I like to make these graphs. And what I found to be easier is because I don't know exactly how many colds I had at age 10. I decided to make it like 11 through 15 and then 16 through 20 so that instead of beginning with the age in my life that's a 0 or a 5, I would begin with the age in my life that's a 1 or a 6 in the ones place. So that and that actually works out a little bit better because the calendar that year, since I was born in 83, the calendar, the year that I was 11, or it started out with me being 11, was 95, so that I could pretty much disregard 94 and before. So I could actually start, with the calendar year when I was 11 and a half to 12 and a half, which is 95. And it looks a bit different, when I graph it that way, because it causes my childhood years, it's the weirdest thing, it causes my school years to be more like the same, so to speak, because there was less of a difference between, say, 95, 96, 97, 98 in the number of colds I got during the calendar year than there was between, say, age 11, 12, 13, 14 with my 7th grade year, being kind of a lull in the graph with only 4 colds that year. as opposed to 7 or 9. So, it kind of evens it out. It makes it pretty steadily high in childhood and adolescence. But then in my adult years, when I've been getting pretty much one cold a year almost every year, it actually looks like I get 0 to 2, which is odd, because a lot of times that one cold would fluctuate. It might be the fall or it might be the spring. You know what I'm saying? I might go 9 months or I might go 18 months. So, it's just another way to look at it. I mean, I never get tired of looking at it. Because how many other people really know that much about how many colds they had when they were younger? And so I'll post that graph, where it begins with the year 95 and goes by 5-year increments in rainbow order, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. And so that you'll see how when I was younger, the warmer colors were higher in the number of colds, and it had absolutely nothing to do with what I was eating and everything to do with where I was going on a daily basis. Colds are a respiratory virus, not a digestive virus, although they can enter through a lot of, like even your ear, just scratching your ear when you have cold germs under your nails can get you sick. So, but this idea that shutting down the restaurant industry and making it drive-through only is the way to reduce respiratory infection is really stupid, because as I stated before, I was not eating out less in my early 30s, certainly not my early 30s, than I did, in like junior high and all that. And as I've stated before, it had everything to do with my younger sister and the exposure that she was giving me, which is why it went up temporarily in the 8th grade, and then a few years later it went down, and you know what I'm saying. So, and the dolly that I got, she now has little hair ties that I find to be better in the long run. So I'll go ahead and post this video.